This is the story of Courtney Taylor Martin, a woman from Smith County, Texas, whose disappearance and death have left behind sorrow, questions, and the need for answers. Courtney vanished in May of 2023 after a brief phone call to her mother asking for a ride home. Within minutes, her mother arrived at the meeting place, but Courtney was gone. She was never seen alive again. For more than 2 years, her family searched, hoped, and waited. While investigators chased down leads, interviewed people who knew her, and combed the surrounding areas for any trace of her. Then, in the summer of 2025, a discovery changed everything. A backpack was found near a pond. And weeks later, skeletal remains were recovered from that pond. The remains were confirmed to be Courtney's, marking the end of the missing person investigation and the beginning of a death investigation that is still unfolding. This script will walk through Courtney's story in careful detail. We will start with who she was the day she disappeared, what investigators did, what her family endured, and how her remains were eventually found. We will examine the unanswered questions that remain, the role of forensic science, the challenges faced by investigators, and the broader implications of this case. This is an exploration designed to cover every known fact and to reflect on the human toll of such cases. Courtney Taylor Martin was born on October 10, 1988, at the time of her disappearance in 2023. She was 34 years old. She was described as about 5 feet 5 inches tall, weighing around 250 pounds with brown hair and brown eyes. She had distinguishing features, including a small nose stud on the left side of her nose and a tattoo on the back of her left shoulder with the initials CM. Courtney's family shared that she was on the autism spectrum and also managed mental health conditions. At the time she went missing, she was not taking her prescribed medication, something that heightened her vulnerability. This made her family particularly concerned when she did not return home. Those who knew her described her as caring, someone who valued connection with her loved ones. She was known to call her mother frequently and check in often. So when she stopped answering her phone, alarm bells went off quickly. In the months before she disappeared, she had reportedly formed a friendship with a man whose name has not been publicly released. Some details suggest that he left Texas soon after she went missing, which has kept public suspicion focused on him. Courtney sometimes spent time in what locals call Tent City, an encampment area near East Gentry Parkway in Tyler. This was a place where individuals experiencing housing insecurity gathered. While she may have spent time there, she still kept strong connections to her family. The date most sources record for Courtney's disappearance is May 18, 2023. That day, Courtney called her mother asking for a ride. She said she was at the intersection of County Road 42 and FM 724 in Smith County, about 1.5 miles from her home. Her mother immediately left to meet her there. When her mother arrived, Courtney was gone. She had disappeared in the short span of time it took to drive just over 1 mile. There were no witnesses to explain where she went, no visible sign of a struggle, and no clear indication of whether she had left the area voluntarily or been taken. What made the situation more alarming was that Courtney's phone stopped being active shortly after. She did not return home, did not contact her family, and was never seen again. Smith County Sheriff's Office opened an investigation immediately. They classified her disappearance as endangered because of her mental health conditions and the fact that she was without her medication. Search teams canvassed the rural area near CR 42 and FM 724. Deputies interviewed neighbors, looked at available security footage from local businesses or private cameras, checked areas where Courtney had been known to stay. They also reached out to people she had recently been in contact with. Investigators considered the possibility that she had simply wandered off, confused or disoriented, but as days turned into weeks, the theory of voluntary disappearance lost credibility. The sheriff's office began to suspect foul play early in the process. By the end of 2023, the investigation had reached a frustrating standstill. Courtney had vanished without a trace. Detectives re-examined her phone records, looking for location pings, text history, and contacts. They checked financial activity, but there were no signs of her using bank accounts or cards. Searches of wooded areas, ponds, and private land produced no conclusive results. Family members kept her story alive, organizing posts online, keeping her name in the public eye. and urging anyone with information to come forward. They feared her case would fall into the category of unresolved disappearances unless new evidence surfaced. In the background, one person loomed in suspicion: the man she had befriended just before she went missing. His departure from Texas so soon after her disappearance seemed suspicious. Though investigators did not publicly label him a suspect, still, this detail became a focus for many following the case. 2 years passed with no breakthroughs. Then, on July 3, 2025, a group of individuals exploring private property in Smith County stumbled upon something significant. They found a backpack near a pond, roughly 100 to 200 yards from the water. Deputies who responded to the call confirmed that the backpack likely belonged to Courtney. This raised urgent questions. Had she been there all along? Is this a sign of foul play? Because the backpack was found near water, investigators believed there could be more evidence below the surface. They called for the Texas Department of Public Safety dive team to search the pond. Unfortunately, dive team could not immediately respond because they were engaged in flood recovery efforts elsewhere in Texas. That delay meant the pond would not be searched until late August. On August 26, 2025, the DPS dive team arrived at the pond. Divers entered the water around 8:30 in the morning. Within about an hour, they recovered skeletal human remains. The remains were sent to the Southwestern Institute of Forensic Sciences in Dallas for analysis. Just 3 days later, on August 29th, the Smith County Sheriff's Office confirmed the remains were those of Courtney Taylor Martin, using dental records provided by her family. This confirmation brought an end to the mystery of her location, but opened a new chapter: the investigation into how she died. Sheriff Larry Smith stated publicly that foul play is strongly suspected and that investigators will now focus on who was responsible and how her remains ended up in the pond. The remains were skeletal, which complicates forensic analysis. Soft tissue that might show injuries or other signs of cause of death was no longer present. Forensic experts must rely on bones, teeth, and any trace evidence that remained in the pond environment. Analysts may be able to detect fractures, projectile damage, or other forms of trauma. They may also examine the surrounding environment, sediment, and any personal effects found nearby. Still, skeletal remains often lead to an undetermined manner of death. That creates a challenge for prosecutors who need strong evidence to charge a suspect. For Courtney's family, the identification of her remains was both devastating and relieving. After 2 years of uncertainty, they finally knew what had happened to her, at least in part. But they also now faced the pain of knowing she was gone, and the frustration of still not knowing exactly how or why. Her mother shared that the discovery brought closure, but also deepened the need for answers. The community in Smith County expressed sympathy and frustration as well. Social media discussion highlighted suspicion around the man she had known before she vanished. Many urged law enforcement to follow up with him, especially given that he left Texas shortly afterward. As of the fall of 2025, the case is officially classified as a death investigation with suspicion of foul play. No arrests have been made public, and law enforcement has not released the names of any suspects. Detectives have stated they are re-interviewing individuals from the original investigation, reviewing phone records again, and re-examining physical evidence. They are also pursuing forensic results from the remains. The sheriff's office has not yet announced a formal reward for information, though appeals to the public continue. Courtney's case highlights the challenges of rural disappearances. Without witnesses or video cameras, cases rely heavily on physical evidence and testimony. When a case goes cold for years, the chances of finding someone alive diminish, and by the time remains are found, crucial evidence may have deteriorated. Her story also underscores the importance of community awareness. Something as simple as remembering an unusual car on a rural road can matter years later. The story of Courtney Taylor Martin is a tragic one. She was a daughter, a woman who lived with challenges, but also with love for her family. She vanished suddenly in May 2023, leaving behind only questions and fear. For 2 years, her family lived in uncertainty. In August 2025, her remains were found, ending the search but beginning a new journey toward justice. Law enforcement has made it clear they suspect foul play. Investigators are working to determine what happened, who was responsible, and how Courtney's final days unfolded. The case is not over. It is only entering its next phase. For the family, closure will only come when those answers are known. For the community, this case is a reminder of the need for vigilance, cooperation with investigators, and compassion for families who live with loss. Courtney's story deserves to be remembered not just as a case file, but as a life that mattered. And as investigators press on, there remains hope that truth and accountability will eventually be found. Thank you for watching Fatal Secrets of True Crime. Subscribe for more stories like this: real crimes, hidden truths, and the secrets they tried to bury. Your support helps keep these stories alive and the pressure on for answers. Till next time, remember, every secret eventually comes to light.